The restaurant owner, thrilled to serve such distinguished guests, hurried to the kitchen to prepare a special meal. Moments later, a plate of steaming hot rice and rich, aromatic stew was placed before Ibrahim. His stomach growled audibly as he picked up his spoon, anticipation lighting up his face. Just as he was about to take his first bite, however, chaos erupted. Out of nowhere, a frail-looking old woman appeared, her clothes torn and her gait uneven. Without uttering a word, she lunged toward the table, grabbed the plate of food, and hurled it onto the ground. The guards sprang into action, their hands instinctively moving toward their weapons. Gasps rippled through the crowd of diners, some standing up to get a better look at the unfolding drama. "How dare you," one of the guards barked, his voice laced with anger. "Beat her," another shouted, his fury palpable. But Ibrahim raised a hand, halting them in their tracks. "No," he said firmly, his gaze fixed on the trembling figure before him. "Leave her. She is someone's mother. Maybe she is not well mentally." Though the guards reluctantly lowered their weapons, tension still crackled in the air. The old woman stood silently, her chest rising and falling with labored breaths, her eyes locked onto Ibrahim's. The restaurant owner, visibly shaken, rushed over, stammering apologies. "Sir, I am so sorry. Please let me bring another plate." A fresh serving arrived moments later, the delicious aroma wafting invitingly. Once again, Ibrahim reached for his spoon, but just as he prepared to dig in, the old woman reappeared. This time, instead of throwing the food, she snatched the plate, sank to the floor, and began devouring it ravenously with her bare hands. The guards were livid. "Enough is enough," one roared, stepping forward to intervene. But once more, Ibrahim stopped them. "Leave her," he commanded quietly. "If she is hungry, let her eat." Whispers rippled through the restaurant. Some patrons speculated that the woman was mad, others believed this was an ominous sign. The owner, mortified beyond words, brought a third plate of food. This time, the dish looked even more appetizing, the rice perfectly cooked, the meat tender and juicy, the spices expertly balanced. As Ibrahim picked up his spoon yet again, the old woman rose slowly to her feet. Her demeanor had changed, her wild-eyed desperation was replaced by a calm seriousness. Meeting his gaze directly, she spoke in a clear, commanding voice. "Young man," she addressed him, unaware of his true identity, "if you love your life, do not eat this food. Disaster will strike if you do." The room fell utterly silent, the atmosphere thick with disbelief and unease. Ibrahim stared at her, his patience wearing thin. He had shown restraint, even empathy, but now he felt his temper flare. "I am hungry, woman," he snapped, his tone icy. "I have respected you enough. How dare you stand there and tell me not to eat?" The old woman didn't flinch. Her eyes, filled with a mixture of sadness and fear, bore into his. "Eat it, and you will regret it," she repeated, her voice unwavering. Something in her words struck a chord deep within Ibrahim. Ignoring the protests of his guards, he ordered, "Bring me the restaurant owner." The elderly proprietor came running, his hands trembling. "Yes, sir? Who cooked this food?" Ibrahim demanded. "My wife, sir. She is the cook," the man stammered nervously. "Call her." Minutes later, a middle-aged woman emerged from the kitchen, clutching her apron tightly. She looked terrified as she approached the table. "Did you cook this food yourself?" Ibrahim asked, his tone measured but probing. "Yes, sir," she replied hesitantly. "Give me your hand." Confused, the woman extended her palm. Ibrahim examined it closely, then studied her face. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead, and her eyes darted around like those of a trapped animal. "You are lying," he declared quietly, his voice carrying an undeniable authority. The old woman nodded solemnly, confirming his suspicion. The restaurant owner looked stunned. "My wife, she would never." Ibrahim stood abruptly. "Search the kitchen," he ordered his guards. Within minutes, they returned, holding a small bottle marked with a black skull. Poison. The truth unraveled swiftly. The woman broke down in tears, confessing that strangers had bribed her to poison a special guest rumored to be passing through town. She had no idea it would be the president himself. Horrified murmurs spread among the customers. Some prayed aloud, others wept openly. Amidst the commotion, Ibrahim turned to the old woman. Shame burned in his chest as he realized how close he had come to losing his life because he hadn't listened sooner. He knelt down before her, shocking everyone present. "Mother," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you saved my life." The old woman simply smiled, her expression serene. After the initial shock subsided, Ibrahim invited the old woman to a quiet corner behind the restaurant, away from prying eyes. His guards followed instinctively, but he waved them off. "Stay back," he commanded, his tone brooking no argument. Once alone, he turned to her, his curiosity burning brightly. "Mother," he began, his voice soft yet insistent, "how did you know the food was poisoned? And why did you come here today?" The old woman regarded him with wise, tired eyes. "My son," she said gently, "I see things others don't. Last night, I had a dream. I saw you sitting at a table, about to eat food that would kill you. Darkness surrounded you. So I had to save you." Ibrahim stared at her, speechless. Chills ran down his spine as he absorbed her words. There was something otherworldly about her presence, something ancient and profound. But she wasn't finished. "That's not all," she continued, her voice growing serious. Leaning closer, she whispered, "You must be careful. Not all the people around you love you. Some of your own guards, they are pretending, smiling in front of you but holding knives behind their backs." Ibrahim's heart skipped a beat. His mind raced as he processed her warning. These were men he had trusted implicitly, men who had fought beside him, protected him, and sworn allegiance to his cause. Could it really be true? "How could this be?" he whispered, his voice trembling. The old woman shook her head sadly. "Your wife warned you before. She saw signs, but you, like many men, refused to listen." At this, Ibrahim froze. Memories flooded back, his wife's gentle warnings, her intuition that something was amiss among his inner circle. He had dismissed her concerns, laughing them off as mere paranoia. Now, standing in front of this poor, unassuming woman, her words hit him like a hammer. "How do you know all this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The old woman smiled kindly. "I know many things, my son. I have lived many years. I have seen kings rise and fall. I have witnessed betrayal in places you wouldn't imagine. I see things others cannot." Ibrahim felt weak in the knees. He sank onto a broken bench nearby, holding his head in his hands. Who could he trust now? Who was real, and who was fake? The old woman placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Do not be afraid," she said soothingly. "God has protected you today. He has given you another chance. But you must open your eyes." Tears welled up in Ibrahim's eyes as he looked at her. "Mother, I will not let you go. From today, you will live with me. You will stay close. I need your wisdom." The old woman laughed softly. "Me? Live in a palace? I am just a poor old woman." "You saved my life," Ibrahim insisted firmly. "You opened my eyes. That makes you more valuable than all the gold in my house." Without waiting for further protest, he led her back to the car, personally opening the door for her, an act that left even his most seasoned guards dumbfounded. Never before had they seen the president treat anyone with such reverence. As they drove back to the presidential mansion, the old woman sat quietly beside him, gazing out the window at the passing cityscape. Ibrahim studied her profile, marveling at the simplicity and strength she exuded. She seemed so ordinary, yet she carried a power far greater than anything he had encountered in his political career. When they arrived, the mansion staff stood frozen in astonishment as they watched the nation's leader walk hand in hand with an elderly woman dressed in worn clothing. "Prepare a room for her," Ibrahim ordered. "The best room." "Yes, sir," they replied in unison, scrambling to comply. That night, as Ibrahim sat alone in his private study, his mind replayed every detail of the day. He thought about the faces of his guards, the ones who had shared meals with him, laughed with him, and stood by his side during battles. Now, doubt crept into his heart. Which of them was plotting against him? Trust, he realized, was like glass. Once shattered, it could never be fully restored. The next morning, Ibrahim woke with a heavy heart. Sleep had eluded him throughout the night, his thoughts consumed by the old woman's revelations. One phrase echoed relentlessly in his mind: "Some of your guards are not to be trusted." Determined to uncover the truth, he called for an emergency meeting restricted to only his most senior personnel. The old woman, now dressed in a clean gown provided by the mansion staff, sat quietly in a corner of the presidential meeting room. Her presence was unassuming, yet her aura commanded respect. When the guards filed in, they stood tall and proud, their expressions confident. These were men who had served Ibrahim for years, risking their lives alongside him in countless struggles. Surely none of them could harbor ill intentions toward him, or so he had believed until yesterday. Ibrahim surveyed each face carefully, searching for cracks beneath the surface. To his surprise, he noticed subtle shifts in their demeanor, furtive glances exchanged between certain individuals, nervous twitches, and forced smiles. Doubt gnawed at him, but he remained composed. The old woman spoke first, her voice soft yet authoritative. "Tell them to swear before God that they have no evil in their hearts toward you," she advised. Ibrahim nodded, addressing the assembled guards. "Step forward, one by one, and swear upon the Bible that you hold no ill will or malicious intent against me." A tense silence enveloped the room. The first guard stepped forward confidently, placed his hand on the sacred text, and recited the oath. His voice was steady, his gaze unwavering. Ibrahim believed him. The second guard followed suit, repeating the same words. However, his hand trembled slightly as he held the Bible. Though barely noticeable, the old woman caught it immediately, her sharp eyes missing nothing. By the time the third guard approached, the atmosphere grew colder. His voice rang loud and clear, but his eyes darted around nervously. Sweat dripped from his brow, betraying his anxiety. Before he could finish, the old woman stood up abruptly. Pointing a finger at him, she declared, "That one. Ask him again." Ibrahim's pulse quickened. "Swear again," he commanded, his tone sharper this time. The third guard faltered. His knees buckled, and suddenly, he collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please forgive me, sir," he cried. "They forced me. They offered me money, they promised my family would be wealthy forever if I helped poison you." The room erupted in chaos. Shouts and curses filled the air as accusations flew back and forth. Ibrahim, however, remained eerily still. Betrayal cut deeper than any blade, and the man kneeling before him was someone he had once called brother. "Who are they?" Ibrahim asked quietly, his voice laced with restrained fury. "They are enemies from outside," the traitor whimpered. "People who hate you because you fight for the poor. They know you are changing the country. They want you dead." Ibrahim's jaw tightened, his fists clenching involuntarily. Rage bubbled inside him, but he forced himself to remain calm. Anger would solve nothing. Turning to his chief of security, he instructed, "Take him away. Find out who else is involved." "Yes, sir," came the swift reply. The traitor was dragged out, still weeping. Silence descended upon the room once more. The old woman walked over to Ibrahim, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You see, my son," she said gently, "powerful men die not from their enemies' knives but from their friends' smiles." Ibrahim bowed his head in gratitude. "You have saved me again, mother. I owe you my life." Tears glistened in the old woman's eyes. "I only did what God sent me to do." Addressing the remaining guards, Ibrahim spoke with renewed resolve. "From today onward, loyalty will not be measured by years of service but by the truth inside your hearts. If anyone here feels conflicted, leave now. But remember this, betrayal will not be tolerated. Justice will find you." The guards nodded, their expressions a mix of fear and respect. In the days that followed, Ibrahim underwent a transformation. The encounter with the old woman had awakened something within him, a deeper understanding of humility, vigilance, and the fragility of trust. He became more introspective, questioning not only the motives of those around him but also his own leadership style. Every evening, he visited the old woman, sitting at her feet like a student eager to learn. She shared stories of resilience, wisdom, and the timeless lessons she had gathered over decades of living. Through her guidance, Ibrahim refined his approach to governance. He began listening more intently to his advisors, especially his wife, whose instincts he had previously underestimated. Under his renewed leadership, policies aimed at uplifting the marginalized gained momentum. Corruption investigations intensified, and reforms targeting transparency became a priority. The public responded with overwhelming support, sensing a genuine commitment to their welfare. For the old woman, life changed dramatically. Once destitute and forgotten, she found herself embraced by the presidential household. She dined with the family, shared laughter with the children, and became a cherished matriarchal figure. In return, she offered invaluable counsel, helping shape a leader who prioritized integrity above all else. As Ibrahim reflected on these changes, he realized that survival was not merely about escaping danger, it was about emerging stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The old woman had taught him that true power lies not in authority but in the ability to inspire trust and foster unity. And so, the story of Ibrahim Traoré serves as a powerful reminder, even the mightiest leaders are shaped by the humblest of encounters.